What if I told you that the life you're living is nothing more than a distorted reflection of your own thoughts? Yes. What you think deep in your mind is either shaping you or destroying you. The mind can be your salvation or your greatest executioner, because as long as you're not in control, your mind will keep dragging you exactly where you don't want to go. This video isn't just a reflection, it's a warning, an urgent call to wake up and face what's really happening inside you. Today, I'll show you how your thoughts are sculpting, minute by minute, the reality you live in. And even more importantly, how you can change that reality from the root. Through Stoic wisdom, you'll discover how to master your mind, how to completely transform yourself, and forge from within a version of you that doesn't break under pressure. Get ready, because what you're about to learn isn't comfortable, but it is necessary. It's time to look your mind in the eye and take the reins. Before we begin, let me tell you Damian's story, because it's not always about someone weak who needs to find their strength. Sometimes, it's about someone strong who didn't realize they were slowly losing control of their mind. Damian was a personal trainer, not one of those who post motivational quotes all day, but the kind who truly believed in effort, discipline, and mental toughness. His motto was simple: it's all in your head. He'd say it to his clients every time they felt like giving up. Your body can take more than you think. The problem is your mind. And he was right. The problem is the mind. Only one day, the problem was his own. At first, it was small things. He'd forget a routine. He wasn't sleeping well, but brushed it off. He started losing motivation and blamed himself in silence. And every time that happened, his mind would hit back hard. Stop whining, you're weak. No excuses. Toughen up. Getting soft now? Keep training. It was like having a drill sergeant inside his head, and that sergeant never slept. Until one day, right in the middle of a session, his mind just went blank. He couldn't remember which set came next, what to say, or even why he was there. All he could feel was a crushing pressure in his chest, like he was trapped inside his own body. That day, he didn't say a word. He finished his shift as best he could, went home and thought, "I'm exhausted. It'll pass tomorrow." But it didn't. And over the following days, he began to live a brutal contradiction. His body was still strong, but his mind couldn't take it anymore. He who had always trained willpower, self-control, consistency, had no idea how to train this. He didn't know how to quiet what was happening inside his head. And the worst part? His mind didn't help. It pushed him deeper. You're failing. If you can't handle this, you're worthless. Everyone can see it. And that's when he hit rock bottom. One night, desperate to find something that could make sense of what he was feeling, he stumbled upon an old forum where someone mentioned a book, Meditations. It said it was written by a Roman emperor trying not to lose his mind in the middle of war. Damian, not really knowing why, bought it. And on one of those nights where insomnia felt endless, he read a sentence that broke him inside. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. That line pierced through him like a needle, because his whole life he had tried to control his body, without ever tending to the thoughts that were steering it from the inside. And he realized that no matter how resilient his body was, if his thoughts were chaos, if his mind was full of noise, no amount of strength would be enough. So, for the first time in his life, he changed his approach. He started training his mind, not with harshness, but with awareness. He began noticing what he thought before acting, writing down what he felt each night without judging it, recognizing that even the strongest can break if they don't listen to what their mind is screaming. Today, Damian is still a trainer, but he no longer sells strength. He teaches presence. He doesn't repeat empty phrases anymore. He teaches his clients something no one tells them, that true discipline isn't just about doing reps in the gym. It's about choosing the thoughts that guide you in the middle of chaos. And if you're here, maybe you're in that same place, strong on the outside but drained on the inside. Maybe you believe you can handle it all, but your mind is calling for help. And let me tell you something. You don't need to fall apart to start over. You just need to listen. Because as Marcus Aurelius said, our life is what our thoughts make it. And if that's true, then your next thought could change everything. This video is here for that, to help you take control from within. Shall we begin? If this content is bringing you value, consider subscribing and becoming an exclusive member to access unique benefits. And tell us in the comments, what thought are you going to transform today to start changing your life? Or simply write, I'm a Stoic. Today I take back control of my mind. That will be your commitment to yourself. 1. Your mind decides everything. Imagine your mind was a movie camera. But not just any camera. One with an invisible automatic filter that changes all the colors without you even noticing. Sometimes it darkens everything. Other times it oversaturates to the point where you barely recognize what's in front of you. The strange thing is, you're not watching the real movie of your life. You're watching what your mind allows you to see. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you are inside. Are you the kind of person who wakes up, sees that it's cloudy, there's traffic, and immediately thinks the day's going to be a disaster? That just one small setback is enough for you to assume everything's going to go wrong? Then listen closely. No, it's not the day. It's your mind writing the script before the movie even starts. And that's not a small thing. That automatic way of interpreting what happens to you shapes how you feel, how you act, and most of all, who you're becoming. Because yes, even if you don't realize it, you're becoming what you think. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman explains this clearly in his podcast. He says there's a sort of mental filter that determines which parts of reality you'll notice and which ones you'll completely ignore. If you wake up thinking, everything's going to go wrong today, that system will start hunting for proof. You see your boss's serious face and think, there it is. Something's off. Someone doesn't reply on WhatsApp and you assume, they're mad at me. What Huberman says is that, if you want to change your life, you need to start by directing your attention. For example, if you decide your keyword today is clarity, you know what your brain will do? It'll begin filtering everything you experience through that intention. You'll start to look for clarity. You'll start to notice opportunities to act with more focus. And that, even if it sounds simple, completely transforms the way you move through the world. When Epictetus said, men are not disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them, he wasn't wrong. This man had been a slave, later a philosophy teacher. His life was anything but easy. But he had a practice. Whenever something seemingly negative happened, he paused to question what it actually meant. He didn't react on autopilot. He gave himself space to choose which thought to keep. And do you know what happened when he did that? What could have broken someone else made him stronger. Every time I talk about this, I think of someone very close to me. Maybe too close. Not a week goes by without something small ruining their day. One time he was at home, everything peaceful, and suddenly he thought, what if my daughter loses her job? No one had said anything, no signs, but his mind was already off and running, building scenarios, drawing conclusions. And just like that, he couldn't even enjoy the coffee in his hand. He stopped reading, stopped smiling, all because his mind had taken him down a road that didn't even exist. Ugh, living like that must be exhausting. And the truth is, we all do this, even if it seems extreme. That's why mastering your mind is so important. Because if you don't take charge, your mind will, and it rarely takes you somewhere good. So what can you do to start changing this? First, change the question. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what is this happening for? That one shift changes the direction of your attention. Second, do a mental reset halfway through the day. No, don't worry. You don't have to go to the Himalayas. Just 5 minutes to breathe, disconnect from the noise, and choose, consciously, how you want to live the second half of your day. Or are you really going to tell me you don't have 5 minutes for yourself in 24 hours? And probably the most important, pick one keyword each morning. Something simple: clarity, calm, focus, presence. Write it down, keep it in mind. Use it as your compass every time you feel your mind dragging you into a dark place. Because in the end, it all comes down to this. If you don't choose your thoughts, they'll choose you. And they'll shape you without you even realizing it. So tell me, what if the problem wasn't what was happening to you, but how you were interpreting it? Maybe you don't need everything around you to change. Maybe you just need to adjust the filter you're using to see your life. Because right there, that's where your true power begins. 2. Get out of scarcity now. Tell me something. Are you one of those people who scroll through social media, see someone traveling through Thailand, launching a successful business, doing yoga at sunrise, and your first thought is, some people have all the luck? Or maybe you watch an inspiring video and think, I wish I could, but my life just isn't like that. No, of course it's not that you can't. The problem isn't what they have. It's what you believe you're missing. Because scarcity, my friend, doesn't start out there. It starts in here. It's a mindset that disguises itself as logic, but deep down, it's just fear. And unless you change that way of thinking, you'll keep believing that the good stuff is for others and that you've just got to settle for leftovers. Let me tell you about someone who completely broke through that barrier. Kanwar Singh, better known as Humble the Poet. He was a school teacher, had a steady income, a stable life. But something inside him kept pulling in another direction. He quit his job to pursue his passion for music and writing. And no, I'll tell you right now, it wasn't easy. He went broke, ended up in debt, full of doubts, constantly afraid he wouldn't make it. For a long time he thought, this just isn't for someone like me. Because that's one of scarcity's favorite phrases, that's not for me. Until one day, he stopped asking if he deserved more and started acting as if he already did. He called that uncomfortable abundance. It wasn't pretending he had it all figured out. It was moving forward with faith that he could build it. As he puts it, abundance doesn't show up when everything is sorted out. It begins the moment you dare to act like you're already on the way. That line changed everything. And today, he's an author, speaker, artist, and most of all, living proof that scarcity is broken from the inside, through action, not excuses. Epictetus, the Stoic who lived as a slave before becoming a philosopher, made it clear centuries ago, if you desire everything you see, you'll become a slave to everything you don't have. What does that mean? That the more you focus on what's missing, the more trapped you become, the more frustrated, the smaller you feel. But if you focus on what you can build from where you are right now, then you're free. Because you no longer need everything to be perfect before you begin. Check this out. In The Slight Edge, Jeff Olson talks about something similar. He says big results don't come from big changes, but from small decisions repeated every day. But here's the catch. The scarcity mindset tells you, if I can't change everything right now, it's not worth doing anything. And that's where you lose, because you end up waiting for more time, more energy, more resources, and never start. Abundance, on the other hand, begins with a very different question. What can I do today, with what I have, to take one step forward? Picture this. A friend texts you, excited to tell you they're launching their own business. They send the logo, the plan, everything. You smile and say, that's awesome. But inside you're thinking, I once had that idea too, but it wasn't the right time, and now it's too late. That thought slips by quietly, almost unnoticed, but it sticks. And if you don't question it, that thought starts making decisions for you. So what do you need to do to break out of that scarcity? Stop looking at what others have and ask yourself, what can I create with what I already have? Make a list of what's within your reach right now, your skills, your connections, your free time, your story, and use them. Write it all down with a how do I make it happen mindset, not with a this isn't enough attitude, because what you think is what you feed. And everything you feed grows. And when you feel out of place, repeat this. I'm not late, I'm in progress. Because no one's late to their own path. The important thing is to move, even if the first step is small, even if it's uncomfortable, Life isn't a store with limited stock. It's a buffet. But if you don't get up from your seat, you're going to stay hungry. So get up. Think differently. Act differently. And you'll see how your mind, little by little, stops limiting you and starts setting you free. 3. Think like a winner. Picture a Formula One driver at the starting line, hands on the wheel, eyes locked on the light, and fully aware that in just a few seconds the entire race is on the line. But the most important thing at that moment isn't the car, the speed, or the track. The most important thing is what he's thinking right before hitting the gas. Because if, in that instant, his mind says, "I'm not ready," "They'll pass me at the first turn," or "I'm not as good as the others," he's already lost. And no, he didn't lose because he lacked talent. He lost because he didn't think like a winner. The great drivers, the ones who make history, don't wait to win to believe in themselves. They hit the track as if victory already belongs to them, not out of arrogance, but because they understand something most people miss. The mind drives first. The rest just follows. And don't think this is some new concept or only true for high-performance athletes. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor already had this figured out. Marcus Aurelius had it etched into his soul. In Meditations, he wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And that wasn't just poetry, it was survival. Think about it. He was emperor of the most powerful empire in the ancient world, with wars at the borders, betrayals around every corner. Do you really think Marcus Aurelius could afford to think like a loser? Of course not. He trained his mind every day to be filled with strength, composure, clarity. He thought like a leader because he needed to be one. Now imagine this. You've got a job interview. You've been preparing for days and you know you have a lot to offer. But as you walk into the building, your thoughts shift. You're suddenly more worried about your sweaty palms, about stuttering, about whether they'll notice you're nervous. And just like that, your mind has already put you on defense. And it's not that you're not capable, it's that you're acting like an imposter instead of thinking like someone who deserves to be there. And I'm not making this up. Neurologist Ethan Kross, author of Chatter, studied how we talk to ourselves, and what he discovered is powerful. People who, in moments of pressure, spoke to themselves like their own coach, in third person like, "You've got this, breathe, focus," performed better. They thought more clearly, made better decisions. And not only that, they also handled stress more effectively. So now tell me, do you want to think like a winner? Then here are 3 simple keys to start training that mindset. First, think, if you were a modern-day Stoic, how would you handle that job interview? You'd probably arrive a few minutes early, go to the bathroom, close your eyes, and take a deep breath. And instead of telling yourself, "I hope they don't notice I'm nervous," you'd repeat something more worthy of Marcus Aurelius. Do what nature requires of you. In other words, give your best, and let the outcome fall where it may. Second, before any challenge, visualize yourself as if you've already lived it. How would you walk if you knew you were the one they'd chosen? How would you speak if you believed you were the perfect fit for that position, that project, that change? Start there. And finally, right before taking action, use affirmations like your own personal coach would. Not empty phrases, but words with purpose. Say things like, "Let's go. You're not the best yet, but you're getting closer." My friend, I'll leave you with a phrase you should never forget. Act as if you already were who you want to become, and you'll end up becoming it. Because yes, what you think, what you tell yourself, what you visualize, that's what starts to shape not only what you do, but who you are. Mastering your mind is the starting point of everything. Because if you don't take control, your mind will, and you might not like where it takes you. Now tell us, what would your phrase be if you started thinking like a winner today? Write it in the comments so the community can be inspired by you, or so you can finally start believing it. 4. Master your emotions. They say that one quiet morning, in a peaceful square in Athens, a Stoic philosopher sat down to enjoy his cup of coffee. Okay, it wasn't coffee like we know it, but you get the idea. A warm drink, his peaceful moment, his silent ritual to start the day. He was sitting there, watching the sunlight filter through the trees when a young man ran past and tripped nearby. In a split second, the contents of the cup flew into the air and landed all over him. The square went silent. Everyone waited for a reaction. The young man turned pale, stammering apologies. The philosopher looked down, saw the liquid on his tunic, looked up at the boy, and said with a calm that caught everyone off guard, "I no longer have coffee. But I still have the day." He stood up, calmly brushed off his clothes, and walked away as if nothing had happened. No anger, no blame, no drama. "Okay, yeah, I know what you're thinking. That story didn't happen. I made it up. But that's how I imagine a Stoic would react to something as everyday as a spilled coffee. Because if there's one thing people who master their mind have in common, it's this: they don't get shaken by what they can't control. And above all, they don't let 5 seconds steal a whole day from them. Think about this. You're driving, relaxed, and suddenly a horn blasts behind you. Someone yells something out their window for no reason. What do? Do you flare up, yell back, and ruin your morning? Or do you breathe and keep going like nothing happened? And look, it's not that it doesn't bother you. Of course it does. But the real question is, are you really going to give that person your energy, your calm, your whole day, just because they can't manage themselves? That would be like paying for an expensive dinner at a fancy restaurant, realizing the food is terrible, and still eating every bite, complaining about it all day, then going back the next day. Ridiculous, right? And yet that's what we do when we keep replaying a 5-second moment for hours. Speaking of 5 seconds, have you heard of Mel Robbins' book? It's called The 5-Second Rule. She teaches a technique that's incredibly simple but powerful. When you're about to act on impulse, count 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. That brief pause breaks the brain's autopilot and gives you a chance to respond with your mind, not your instinct. And yeah, it might sound silly at first, but it works. Because in those 5 seconds, you decide whether you are behind the wheel or your emotions are. And if you like short pauses, consider this line from Marcus Aurelius: "The best revenge is to be unlike the one who caused the harm." He knew that reacting like the other person doesn't make you strong. It just makes you the same. And when you match someone who lacks virtue, you lose the one thing you can control: your mind. Wondering how you can master your emotions instead of being ruled by them? Then here are 3 things you can start doing today. First, every time something triggers you, count 5 seconds before you say or do anything. Just 5. No more, no less. It might not seem like much, but in those 5 seconds, you could save a relationship, avoid a fight, or protect your peace. Second, ask yourself one simple question when something gets to you: will this matter tomorrow? If the answer is no, don't give it more space in your mind, because what you think about repeatedly is what you're becoming. Third, start writing down your emotions as if you were just observing them. Don't say, "I'm furious." Say, "I'm noticing that there's anger in me." It might seem small, but that change in language puts you outside the storm. And when you're outside, you can think clearly. This isn't about not feeling. It's about choosing which emotions walk with you, and which ones don't even deserve a seat at your table. Mastering your mind means choosing which thoughts stay, and which emotions leave. Remember, what you think, what you repeat, what you allow inside, that's what you're becoming. 5. Train your habits. Picture this. You put a pot of rice on the stove. You fill it with water, cover it, and let it cook. But then you completely forget about it. You don't check on it, don't adjust the heat, don't see if it's boiling too much or not enough. What do you think is going to happen? It burns, it dries out, it's ruined. And no matter how hungry you are, you can't eat it anymore. That's exactly how your mind works. You can have the best intentions in the world, but if you don't take care of it, if you don't train it with consistent habits, it's going to burn out. Because mental clarity, inner calm, and real strength don't just show up. They're built. And if you do nothing, then know, You can't expect anything different. You probably know this pattern. You say you want more focus, more energy, more stability, but you sleep 5 hours, skip breakfast, and spend the first 30 minutes of your day bouncing between notifications, social media, and pointless emails. Do you really think your mind is going to work well in that state? You're throwing it into an obstacle course from the very first second, and then you wonder why you're irritable, why you can't concentrate, or why making decisions feels so hard. Dr. Peter Attia, a physician and researcher, talks about something most people overlook: emotional training as a key part of mental longevity. For him, taking care of your mind isn't just about meditating or reading books. It's about creating small rituals that support healthy thinking, that bring structure to the daily chaos, that allow your inner world to stay in order, even when everything outside is falling apart. And yes, this idea isn't new. Aristotle said, "Happiness depends upon ourselves." A simple phrase, but if you really look at it, it's a massive call to responsibility. He's telling you that if your life is messy, your mind is unfocused, or your mood is low, it's not just about what's happening outside. It's about what you do each day with what you have. And to drive the point home, let's borrow from Seneca. Nothing great is created suddenly. Not a strong mind, not a meaningful life. Everything begins with what you choose to repeat. So let's train. Let's build habits that don't just boost your productivity, but give you mental power, that make you feel like you're truly taking the wheel. Because, my friend, what you do each day shapes your character, and what you think while doing it, that's what you're becoming. First, create your own mini victory routine. No, you don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. or meditate for 40 minutes. Just pick 3 things you can do first thing in the morning that make you feel like you've already won something. Maybe it's writing a powerful quote, drinking your coffee for 5 quiet minutes without your phone, stretching and taking a deep breath before you get dressed. Small actions, but done right, they reset your mental rhythm. Second, start using anchor habits. That means attaching a simple mental practice to something you already do every day. For example, after you finish your coffee, read 1 page of something that inspires you. While brushing your teeth, repeat an affirmation that reminds you who you want to be. Today, I won't get scattered. Today, I act with intention. They're simple, sure, but the power is in the repetition. You've probably figured it out by now. You don't need to change your whole life all at once. You just need to start with 1 brick, then another, and another. This isn't about magical transformations. It's about building a strong mind. Through repetition, through decisions, through habits that, without you even noticing, begin to turn you into someone else. And if you're wondering when the change will show up, the answer is simple. The day you wake up, follow your routine, and without thinking, tell yourself, "Today I'm in control." That's the day you'll understand that the thoughts you repeat are the ones sculpting you, and training your habits, that's nothing more than training who you're becoming. 6. Change your beliefs. Be honest, do you have a phrase you keep repeating to yourself without ever questioning it? Something like, "I'm just not good at that," "I've never been cut out for this," or even, "That's not for people like me." What if I told you that voice in your head isn't actually you? What if the belief that's been holding you back all this time isn't even true? My friend, more often than not, what hurts us isn't who we are. It's what we believe we are. And the worst part is, those beliefs sneak into our minds early, bury themselves deep, and we barely notice them. But they're there, sabotaging you, limiting you, and shaping you, because the thoughts you repeat constantly are who you're becoming. Don't worry, you're not the only one. The other day I heard a story that stayed with me for hours. Her name is Melina Leon. She's from Peru, and today she runs a successful catering business. But her journey didn't start in a professional kitchen or with high-end clients. It started on the street, selling empanadas from a cart under the sun, with nothing but her recipe and her drive. For years, she repeated the same phrase in her head: "I'm poor, so I can only hope to survive." That was her belief, her truth, her invisible ceiling. And no, it wasn't about ability. It was about what she'd believed for so long. She no longer questioned it. One day, tired of living under that thought, she wrote a new phrase and stuck it to the wall of her kitchen, right where she could see it every time she cooked. If I can feed others, I can feed my dreams. It might sound poetic, but for her, it was revolutionary. Because that new phrase didn't come from nowhere, it came from the daily act of showing up, of not giving up, of deciding that even if she didn't know how, she was going to try a different story, one that didn't define her by her past. What she did next was anything but easy. She got up before sunrise to prepare orders, went door to door selling her empanadas, pitched her services to companies. And even though many doors closed on her, she kept going, until one day, she made it. Without knowing it, Melina started living something Epictetus had understood over 2,000 years ago. No one is free unless they are master of themselves. She couldn't control the economy, her clients' responses, or the weather, but she did learn to control her mind. Because as writer Mark Manson says in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, the real issue isn't having beliefs. We all do. The problem is that a lot of our beliefs are like badly written stories, and we keep reading them on repeat without realizing it. He calls this the internal storyteller, and he has a brilliant line. The key isn't to eliminate beliefs, but to choose better lies, because no belief is absolute, but some will move you forward, and others will hold you back. So what can you do to change that mental story you've been stuck in for years? Start by writing down one belief you have about yourself, the one that limits you most. Then ask yourself, do I believe this because of experience or because of fear? You might be surprised. Next, swap "I'm not like that" for a simple possibility. What if I just tried it for 1 week? Don't commit to a final version of yourself, just try it. Make room for a new narrative. And finally, create your beta version. A new belief that even if you're not 100% sure yet, you're willing to test. Write it down, read it. Repeat it whenever your mind tries to drag you back to what's familiar. It could be something like, "I deserve more," or "My voice matters too." You don't have to fully believe it yet. You just have to practice it as if it were real. Because remember, if you repeat a lie long enough, it becomes your truth. So you'd better choose wisely what you keep repeating. And you, yes you, are you ready to tell us what belief is holding you back? Share it in the comments and let us know how you're going to start changing it. Who knows? Maybe saying it out loud is the very thing that will set you free. 7. Use the obstacle to your advantage. Imagine a gym with no weights. What's the point, right? You could have the best music, the perfect vibe, the most high-end machines, but without resistance, there's no progress. Well, your mind works exactly the same way. If everything were easy, if no difficulty ever showed up, if every plan went smoothly, your mental strength would wither. It wouldn't grow. Because what makes you strong, my friend, isn't the calm. It's what you choose to think when chaos hits. And yes, in those very moments, you're becoming what you think. Marcus Aurelius said it plainly. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. And he didn't write that from the comfort of a desk. He wrote it in the middle of a war, with his empire crumbling on multiple fronts, sick, betrayed, and exhausted. But he never gave in, because to him, every new obstacle wasn't a punishment, it was training. And the mind grows through training. And if there's someone who's taken that idea to another level, it's Mo Gaudat. He was a top executive at Google X. He had everything anyone could dream of. Until one day, his son Ali died suddenly at the age of 21. His world shattered. And I wish I could tell you there's a way to soften a loss like that. But there isn't. Still, Mo made one decision that changed everything. To turn that pain into a purpose. He didn't want his son's death to destroy him. He wanted to honor his life by spreading a message of peace. He wrote the book Solve for Happy, and started teaching something he had to learn the hardest way possible. You can't control what happens, but you can control how you think about it. And that, as he says, is enough to find meaning. What Mo did aligns word for word with Stoic philosophy. Accept reality as it is, no sugarcoating, no drama, and consciously choose your response. Because what happens to you doesn't define you. What you think about what happens does. Now imagine this. Your big interview gets canceled. That long-awaited project gets delayed. Someone who promised to show up just disappears. What do? Do you spiral? Do you take it as a sign that you should give up? No, that's exactly what your untrained mind wants. But you can choose differently. First, make a list of your star obstacles. The moments that once frustrated you, hurt you, ruined your plans. But today, you're grateful for them. Because without them, you wouldn't be where you are. You'll be surprised how many things that seemed like disasters were actually disguised breakthroughs. Second, every time something throws you off, say this to yourself: this is today's training. Like you're in a mental gym, like every curveball is a weight building your strength. And you'll see, your mood will shift. But more importantly, your perspective will shift. Third, look for the hidden benefit. Not to deny the pain, but to ask yourself honestly, what is this teaching me that I wouldn't have learned if everything had gone perfectly? Because yes, sometimes obstacles aren't punishments. They're teachers. Brutal, uncomfortable, but deeply necessary. Because, my friend, what's stopping you today could be the very thing that makes you unstoppable tomorrow. You don't need your problems to disappear. You need to face them and say, thank you for the lesson. Because if you learn to use the obstacle to your advantage, then every fall becomes momentum. Every mistake becomes progress, and every thought you choose pulls you closer to the person you're meant to become. 8. Visualize it until you make it. The night before a great battle, Roman soldiers didn't sleep much. Some went over the strategy again and again. Others sharpened their swords. But there was one thing almost all of them did, without anyone telling them to. They closed their eyes and imagined themselves surviving. They saw themselves moving through the battlefield, dodging strikes, standing their ground, and finally, raising their fists in victory. It wasn't superstition, it was mental preparation. Because they knew that if they could win it first in their mind, they had a much better chance of winning it in reality. And you, my friend, might not be at war, but your mind also needs to visualize before it can move forward. Because what you vividly imagine, you begin to believe. And what you believe, you begin to live. Like Marcus Aurelius said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Every thought you repeat is another brushstroke. If your mind is painted with doubt, fear, or I can't, it doesn't matter what you try to do, you'll be sabotaging yourself from the inside. But if your mind starts to fill with clear images of what you want, of how you might get there, of what it would look like to be that version of you, then something begins to shift. Stephen Bartlett, host of The Diary of a CEO, explained this in one of his most popular episodes. He shared how for years he visualized himself making tough decisions, failing, trying again. He didn't just dream of success. He saw himself facing the hard parts. And that's what kept him going when things didn't go as planned. Because visualization isn't just to inspire you. It trains your mind not to fall apart when discomfort shows up. And now, I want you to do the same. But not with empty phrases like, I visualize myself as a millionaire on a beach. No, I want you to really see yourself. Close your eyes and imagine your life 5 years from now, on a normal day. Not a dream scenario, just your routine. What time do you wake up? What kind of work do you do? What things do you not do anymore because you've grown? Who is the version of you living that day? If you do it right, you'll feel something shift inside you, like that future is actually possible, because deep down, it is. Here's the first step you need to try. Stop visualizing only the outcome. Picture yourself going through the fear, the doubt, the days when nothing works. How do you respond? How do you get back up? Because if your mind only rehearses happy endings, the moment real struggle hits, your system crashes. Another powerful exercise: create your own mental trailer, like you're the lead in a movie that hasn't come out yet, but experience it from the inside. What do you tell yourself before a big meeting? How do you feel after taking that leap you used to avoid? Make it so vivid your brain starts to act like you've already lived it. And if you want to reinforce all of this even more, build a visual space that reminds you where you're headed. A vision board, a sticky note on your wall, a folder of images on your phone. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to be visible. Because what you see every day slowly becomes what you believe is possible. Visualization is not daydreaming, it's training. And like any training, it's hard at first, but the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. Because what you think about each day is what you're becoming. Still not sure? Think of it this way. No one builds a house without a blueprint, and your mind needs to see before it can build. Because if you can't see it in your mind, it'll be very hard to create it with your hands. 9. Choose your people wisely. Imagine you have two torches. One is lit, its flame burning strong, the other one is out. If you bring them close together, what do you think will happen? Exactly, the unlit one catches fire, but the reverse can happen too. If that flame is surrounded by wind, water, and obstacles, it'll eventually go out. Your mind works the same way. So, my friend, think about this. Who are you surrounding your mind with? If you spend your time with 5 negative people, guess what you're going to become? The 6th. If everyone around you is always complaining, always seeing the glass half empty, mocking anyone who wants to grow, that's a red flag. You won't walk away untouched. Your mind absorbs the environment. It adjusts. It molds itself. And before you know it, you start thinking like them. And you already know what happens with what you think, right? You're becoming it. Have you heard of the Grant study on happiness? At Harvard, they've been tracking hundreds of people for over 80 years to understand what really leads to a fulfilling life. And the most powerful finding? The quality of your relationships directly impacts your mental health, your physical health, and even how long you live. It's not just about having people around. It's about who you share your thoughts, your habits, your dreams with. Because if those people pull you down, your mind adapts to the basement. And you've definitely felt this in your life. Imagine you decide to start reading before bed every night. You tell your friends and they say, "You? What? Trying to be all intellectual now?" Or you say you're going to stop drinking on weekends and they laugh, "Wow, you got boring fast." Or you share your idea for a business and they instantly respond, "So-and-so tried that and totally failed." See what's happening? You don't need enemies. Sometimes being surrounded by people who mock your effort to improve is enough to make you quit. Little by little, without even noticing, you stop trying. Epictetus, never one to sugarcoat things, said we should avoid talking too much with ordinary people. Otherwise, we'll become ordinary ourselves. And he was right, wasn't he? It's not arrogance, it's protection. Because your mind is like a plant. Put it in a dark, stale corner with no light, and it won't grow. But give it sunshine, space, fresh airs, and it'll thrive. And just for fun, picture Epictetus in a WhatsApp group full of absurd memes, daily complaints, and conspiracy theories about bread being part of a global plot. How long do you think he'd stay in that group? Not long. He knew every conversation is nourishment. And if you want to perform well, you don't feed yourself junk. So here's what I suggest. Do a quick social audit. Write down who you talk to the most each week. Not just who you like, but ask yourself, do these people inspire me or drain me? Do they push me forward or make me doubt myself? Start using the 3 filters. Every time you join a conversation, ask, does this help me grow? Does it bring me peace? Does it make me laugh with purpose? If it doesn't check at least one box, maybe it's not worth your energy. And if your immediate circle doesn't yet include people who elevate you, no problem. Find creators, books, podcasts, online communities that connect you with that energy. You don't have to meet them in person. What matters is what they spark in your mind. Even a video like this one can be that push you're not getting at home. In the end, it's about having better conversations, the kind that light you up, shake you awake, remind you what you're capable of, because what enters your mind is what eventually comes out of you. So be honest, do you have someone in your circle who no longer helps you grow? What conversation do you need to have with yourself about that? Tell us in the comments. Maybe sharing it here is the push you need to finally make a change. And my friend, if you truly want to take full control of your thoughts, there's still one thing left. The most important piece. The one thing that separates those who move forward from those who stay stuck halfway. Want to find out what it is? 10. Let go of what's holding you back. What would happen if today you let go of that guilt you've been dragging around for years? What if you stopped carrying the weight of that old mistake, one that no one else even mentions anymore, but that you still replay in your mind week after week? It's like an echo that won't quiet down, a shadow that creeps in even during your peaceful moments. And if you're constantly thinking about what already happened, about what you didn't do right, about what should have been, then, my friend, you're building yourself from that place, and you already know what you think about is what you're becoming. I've been there too, stuck in a past trauma that shaped me more than I wanted to admit. On the outside, everything seemed to move forward, but inside, I couldn't let go. I felt like no matter how many new things I did, a part of me was still frozen in that exact moment. Until one day, I was listening to an interview with Roxy Nafusi, and something just clicked. She shared how she spent years sabotaging herself, trapped in toxic relationships and destructive patterns, until one day she did something radically different. She wrote a letter of forgiveness to her past self. It wasn't a pretty letter, it was raw, painful. But through writing it, she finally said the things she had never said out loud. And in forgiving herself, embracing that old version of who she was, she could finally move forward. Not pretending nothing had happened, but transforming everything she'd lived into a lesson. I tried it. And no, it wasn't magic. It wasn't instant. But it helped me stop looking at that chapter with anger. I started to realize that I couldn't change what happened, but I could change what I thought every time I remembered it. And believe me, that changes everything. Because holding on to the past is like trying to set sail with your anchor still stuck to the dock. The sea might be calm, the wind might be right, your destination might be clear, but you're not going anywhere. Not because you can't, but because you haven't released what's holding you down. And what about you? Are you still clinging to a relationship that didn't work? Or a missed opportunity? Or a version of yourself that no longer exists but is hard to let go of? And every time you bring it into the present, it's not to learn from it, but to punish yourself. As if you're constantly reminding yourself that you don't deserve to move forward, just because once you failed. But today, I want to offer you something different. First, write a letter to your past self. Don't worry about making it perfect, just make it honest. Say everything you've never said, what hurt you, what you did out of fear, what you tried even though you had no idea how. Then read it out loud, and once you do, choose what to do with it. You can tear it up, burn it, or keep it as a symbol that you're finally ready to close that chapter. Next, make a list of things that no longer deserve your energy. People, situations, memories, even phrases you keep repeating to yourself that are holding you back. Write them down. And when you feel yourself clinging to the past again, read the list. Remind yourself that you decide where your mind goes. And if there's still something hurting you today, something you're not sure how to let go of, remember what Seneca said. Time heals what reason cannot. Give yourself time, but don't let that time just be waiting. Let it be a transformation, because what you think about is what you become. Mastering your mind is the greatest act of freedom you can achieve, because everything begins there, in what you think when no one's watching, in what you tell yourself in silence, in the story you repeat every day about who you are, and where you're going. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to start thinking like someone who's already on the path. Because what you think about is what you become. If you've made it this far, let us know in the comments. I'm changing my world through my thoughts. That way, I'll know who the true Stoic warriors are who made it to the end. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and give this video a like so you don't miss out on what's coming next. I also invite you to check out our playlist, which you'll see on the screen. It's packed with ideas, stories, and advice to help you navigate life with more wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep moving forward together. Until next time, take care and keep embracing your inner Stoic.